Do you believe men and women can ever just be friends without one person catching feelings? Have you ever had a partner who side eyed your opposite sex friendships? Or maybe you've been the one saying, nah, they're just a friend, while secretly questioning if that's really true about your own partner. The truth is, opposite sex friendships are one of those topics everyone has an opinion on, and usually it's messy. Some people swear it's totally possible, others claim it never works. And most of us, we've probably argued it both ways depending on what season of life we were in. Because on the one hand, those friendships can be genuine, grounding, and honestly, some of the best connections you'll ever have. On the other hand, they can also be blurred, complicated, and hard to navigate if boundaries aren't there. And the way we handle that tension says a lot about us, our insecurities, and what we actually believe about love and respect. So, welcome back to Chasing Stability, the podcast for the in between of love and friendship, figuring out what's real and what's just projection, and of wanting connection, but not always knowing where the line is. If you've ever been called too friendly, too flirty, or too naive for thinking guys and girls can just be friends, you're not alone here. Today, we're asking one of those questions that always seems to start arguments at the dinner table, group chats, and even in relationships. Can men and women really just be friends? So let's break it down. The double standards, the red flags, the blurred lines, and the boundaries that actually make it work. Let's start with the part that annoys me, honestly, the most, the double standard. If a guy has a ton of female friends, people say he's charming, he's safe, he's just one of the girls. But if a girl has a lot of guy friends, suddenly she's for the streets. She's a problem. She's doing too much. She's probably talking to all of them, right? How did we get here? Why is one seen as harmless and the other is automatically suspicious? And you see this play out everywhere. Think about how quick people are to judge a woman with a male friend. It's not, oh, she must be really fun to hang out with. It's, oh, she must be looking for attention. Meanwhile, the guy in the same situation gets labeled as trustworthy, mature, or just good with women. It's unfair, but it also reveals how warped our view of friendship really is. It shows how often we reduce women's friendships with men down to what must she be giving them, instead of just believing men and women can enjoy each other's company without it turning romantic. And I think part of it comes from insecurity, not just from partners, but from society itself. We've been trained to see men and women as either dating, almost dating, or bound to date. So if you step outside of that narrative, people don't know what to do with you. I remember this starting for me as early as like middle school. I had a guy friend I was really close with, and the only reason I started pulling away from him and not wanting to spend as much time with him wasn't because of him. It was because of everyone else. People kept assuming we were dating, or they teased us like, oh, you guys are obviously a thing. It made it awkward, even though for us, it wasn't like that at all. By high school, I had grown out of caring so much about what people thought about it, and we got closer again, but the questions never stopped. If we weren't dating, people wanted to believe we must be secretly hooking up, because for them, it didn't make sense that a guy and a girl could be that close without being romantic or sexual. And looking back, I realized how damaging that is, because it trains you to second guess even the most innocent friendships. Like there always has to be an angle, when sometimes the truth is just friendship, plain and simple. So the reality is, not everything between men and women has to be sexual or romantic. Sometimes it really is just friendship. But if we can't believe that, maybe the problem isn't with the friendship. Maybe the problem is with the way we've been taught to see each other. And let's be real, the double standard doesn't just affect how people look at you, it affects how you look at yourself. I can't tell you how many women have told me that they actually cut off guy friendships just to avoid the drama or the reputation, not because the friendship was unhealthy, but because the narrative around it was. That's the damage of a double standard. It doesn't just judge you, it limits you. And if we're being honest, there are double standards that limit women in this topic and so many other more, right? But then there's this other little layer, the one where some guys will flat out say men and women can't be friends because guys only want one thing. They'll look at you with your guy friend and swear he's just waiting for his chance, that he's not actually there for you, that he doesn't care about your friendship. He just wants to sleep with you. There's honestly nothing that will piss me off faster more than this line right here. And I don't know about you, but I've always thought, doesn't that reveal more about how you see women than it does about my friendship or my guy friend? Like, if you honestly believe that men are so barbaric that they can't look at a woman without seeing sex, that says a lot more about your perspective and about what you value in women. Because if the only thing you think women can offer men is sex, that's not insight. That's projection. That's you telling on yourself. And this isn't just some abstract idea either. I've lived it. I remember being in a relationship where my boyfriend told me straight up that my guy friend, who I've had since I was 15, was only friends with me because he wanted to sleep with me. And I can't lie, it stung. Because in that moment, what I heard wasn't just an accusation about my friend. What I heard was, you have nothing else to offer a man besides sex. Damn, that cuts deep. Because this was a friendship that had lasted through different schools, different jobs, different relationships, different times of life in general. It wasn't about attraction. It was about history, about actually knowing each other. And to have it reduced down to something so small, so like transactional, it pissed me off. And the irony to this story is later on, I found that he had a close female friend. And I remember thinking to myself, so should I assume the same thing about you? Should I assume that you want to have sex with her just because she's a woman? That's when it really clicked for me that so often this isn't about reality, it's projection. And for every man I've ever heard say this line to a woman are always the ones that will turn around and be following 300 sex pushing females on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter. So please tell me again how the guy friend only sees me as a sex object while you have no problem objectifying women daily as long as it's through social media platforms and the girl you're dating isn't involved. The truth is, friendship takes more than attraction. It takes respect, connection, shared values, history, things that don't have anything to do with romance. Men and women can and do offer each other more than just physical attraction and attention. And if you can't see that, that's your blind spot, not proof that friendships don't exist. But the other side of that is sometimes we do get suspicious, right? Even when we swear we believe in platonic friendships, there are moments where we've looked at our partner's opposite sex friend and thought, maybe not. Maybe there is more. And that suspicion often has less to do with the friendship itself and more to do with fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough, fear of someone else being able to offer them something we can't. Some of you all aren't really ready for that conversation though, right? But to be fair, sometimes that fear comes from experience. Maybe you've been in a relationship where the friend, quote unquote, eventually wasn't just a friend. Maybe you heard it's nothing 100 times only to find out it actually was something. That kind of betrayal rewires the way you see opposite sex friendships. You start carrying that past into the present, and suddenly every she's just a friend sounds like a lie. That's not paranoia, though. That's your nervous system remembering what it feels like to be blindsided. But here's where the work comes in: learning to separate your past experiences from your current reality. Otherwise, you'll end up treating every new friendship like a ticking time bomb, even if it's completely innocent. So, when we say men and women can't just be friends, sometimes it's not fact, it's insecurities talking. And sometimes it's not insecurity, it's pain talking. So then the question becomes, are we reacting to the truth in front of us, or are we reacting to our own fears and just reaching and projecting? Which leads us here. There's a massive difference between a friendship and an emotional side piece. A friendship is built on clarity and boundaries. An emotional side piece, that's when you're basically running all your relationship energy through someone who isn't your partner, but you're still calling it just friends. I mean, we all know what it looks like. You're sharing more of your feelings with your friend than you do with your actual partner. You're running to them for comfort first, not because they're closer, but because you like the validation. You start confiding in them about the things your partner does that upsets you, not to vent, but to hear, oh, I'd never treat you like that. That's not friendship anymore. That's you starting to fill the replacement. And the truth is, I've been on both sides of that line. When I was younger, I had a guy friend who leaned on me in that way. At first, it made me feel chosen, like I was the person he trusted most. But over time, I realized I wasn't being chosen at all. I was just being used as a safe place while he gave the best of himself somewhere else. And it hurt. It left me confused, hanging on to a connection that was never going to become what I thought it was. And here's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. Sometimes the blurry line isn't even about what you are doing. It's about how it looks from the outside. I had a guy friend who once said, "Love you," in a total joking, platonic way, the same way you'd say it to like a sibling or a longtime friend when they made a joke, you thought it was funny, ha ha ha, this is why I love you kind of thing. To me, it meant nothing romantic. And I know that that was how it was supposed to be taken. But I knew my partner at the time wouldn't see it that way. So instead of explaining, I panicked and I lied about it. And that's the trap right there. That's how messy it gets and how quick. I wasn't using that friend as an emotional side piece. I wasn't being unfaithful at all. I mean, this guy and I barely even talked half the time anyway. I mean, maybe 3 times a year. But because of the constant narrative that men and women can't just be friends, I felt I had to hide something innocent to avoid a fight. And yeah, lying was 100% wrong. And I own that to the fullest extent. But it was a mistake, not cheating. It came from fear, not betrayal. And that's the ripple effect of mistrust around opposite sex friendships. Even when it's real, even when it's pure, the pressure of how it's perceived can push you into decisions that break trust anyway. Oof. So, can men and women be friends? Yes, but only when there are boundaries. And unfortunately, I've had to learn that the hard way. And it's the kind of boundaries that protect your heart. 1. 2, protect your relationship at all costs. And 3, protect your clarity. Without all three of them, even the most well-intended friendship can slide into confusion. The first boundary is around emotional intimacy. And this one's tricky because, yes, we all need friends to vent to about our relationships, but our opposite sex friend shouldn't be that person. If you're constantly talking about your relationship problems to them, there is almost always an undercurrent here. Like, let's just be honest. No guy is listening to all the messy details of your relationship drama unless there's some underlying curiosity or interest. That's not friendship. That's a blurred line waiting to be crossed. And the truth is, opposite sex friendships are actually their healthiest when they're not that deep. And I don't mean shallow or fake. I just mean simple, basic. You talk about football. You talk about a new Netflix show that you're watching. You grab lunch and laugh about dumb shit from work. I don't know. It's light. It's fun. It doesn't bleed into the kind of territory that confuses loyalty and stirs up emotional tension. For me, that's exactly how my closest guy friendship is. It works. We don't have late night heart to heart conversations about either of our love lives. We talk about sports, TV, music, or life goals in a really straightforward kind of way. Because the second you start pulling opposite sex friends into your deepest relationship pain, you're crossing into a space that isn't about friendship anymore. It's about emotional intimacy, even if it's at just a very shallow level that truly shouldn't belong to them. It should belong to your partner. And that's why I say lean on your friends for support, yes, but be mindful of which friend you go to for that. If you wouldn't be comfortable with your partner sitting right there while you spill it all out, then it's probably not a healthy boundary, right? The second boundary is mutual clarity. You should never be left guessing what the friendship is or isn't. If someone's your friend, it should feel secure, not like you're constantly reading between the lines, like if you were potentially interested in this person. If a guy friend is slipping in compliments that feel just a little too loaded or dropping comments that blur the lines, that's not clarity, that's confusion. Same goes for the energy shift. If he treats you one way when it's just the two of you and acts different when your boyfriend's around, hello, red flag. Clarity means you both know exactly what it is. A friendship. No hidden motives, no maybe one days, no constant wondering if it's more. If you're ever left feeling like it's a maybe, then it's not a friendship. It's someone trying to keep a door cracked open. Please hear that one again because I have failed here 1,000 times. If you are ever left feeling like it's a maybe, then it's not friendship. It's someone trying to keep a door cracked open. All right. The third boundary is respect for outside relationships. This is a huge one. Because when someone starts dating seriously, the dynamic of opposite sex friends has to shift. It doesn't mean the friendship ends, it just means it adjusts healthily. Like for me, I had a guy friend in college who I was super close with. But when he met his now wife, our friendship naturally changed, and that's healthy. He's not texting me all the time anymore. We don't hang out. We don't do what we used to do. We used to be best friends, you know? But when we catch up, it's more of a how are you guys doing conversation because he respects her. And honestly, he respects me too by making the boundaries clear. And in return, everyone gets respected. If your opposite sex friend can't respect your partner, that's not friendship anymore. That's sabotage. Respect means knowing when closeness needs to be dialed the hell back and not taking it personally. If they can't do that, they weren't there for the friendship. Okay? The fourth boundary is transparency. And this one might be the most important because secrecy is the fastest way to destroy trust. If you can't tell your partner about your opposite sex friend, who they are, how you know them, what the friendship looks like, then it's not healthy. All right? Like, let's be honest. Like, I've had to cut some opposite sex friendships because this one hit hard. Like, if you can't talk about your friend to your partner and not feel like you have to lie, that is not a friend anymore, right? Like, think about it. Real friendships don't have to be hidden. You should be able to say your friend's name in front of your partner without feeling nervous. You should be able to invite your partner into the same spaces without worrying something will look off. Because friendships that thrive in secrecy, those aren't friendships, just like relationships that thrive in secrecy, right? They're distractions. If you feel like you have to keep it in the shadows, you're already throwing like 100 red flags to your partner. And you should be aware of that, right? So ask yourself honestly, are you showing up for this friendship in a way that's respectful to your own relationship? Are you being clear with your boundaries? Or are you letting the attention slide because it feels good even if it's not intentional? And that's the thing. Sometimes we're not the villain, but we're also not completely innocent either. Maybe you're a little flirty when you're bored. Maybe you let conversations go a little deeper than they should. Maybe you say it's not that serious when you know that for you it's starting to feel a little bit more serious. Self-reflection is about asking, would I be okay if my partner had this exact same dynamic with someone else? If the answer is no, then you already know what you need to do. And I think that one's a kind of a hard pill to swallow because some of us want to believe the best in people and we want to create the idea that like, oh, like it's really nothing, it's fine, to hang on to that friendship, even though we know it's not good for our romantic relationship. But you have to be able to let it go. Friendship with an opposite sex can absolutely work, but only when you're willing to own your role in protecting it. Otherwise, you're just putting your relationship at risk. You're putting yourself in the middle of confusion you didn't really want anyway. When you're younger, the narrative that guys and girls can't just be friends feels loud, constant, and honestly believable. It's in the jokes your friends make. It's in the way people tease you for being too close to a guy or a girl. It's in the way partners get insecure, sometimes because they've been burned before, sometimes because they've never seen a healthy opposite sex friendship modeled. But part of growing up is realizing that narrative isn't the full truth. Just because it was repeated doesn't mean it is right. The older I've gotten, the more I've seen how childish it actually is to believe men and women cannot have connections that are rooted in anything but attraction. Because honestly, the way we see these friendships as teens or in our early 20s when jealousy is running so high and insecurities are running even deeper is not the way that we really see them when we're 30 or 35. With that maturity, you start to understand that healthy friendships require respect, boundaries, and balance, and you stop assigning red flag energy to things that are actually just normal. And adult friendship is about intentionality. It's not about who you're around, it's about who chooses to stay. And that includes opposite sex friendships. Because the truth is, a healthy friendship, no matter what gender it is, has less to do with proximity and more to do with presence. For me, I can look back and see the moments where I pulled away from guy friends in middle school or high school just because it made people think different, right? And I wish I hadn't. I wish that wouldn't have bothered me. I wish I had trusted myself enough to know the truth that not every connection has to be sexualized. Not every friendship has to be questioned at all. And a real adult friendship respects your time, your energy, and your boundaries. It's not jealous of your partner. It's not sneaky. And it doesn't make you question where you stand. It's mutual, it's clear, it's safe. Growing up means letting go of these old scripts people handed us and writing our own new ones. It's realizing that friendships of all kinds are valuable and they don't have to fit inside anyone else's comfort zone other than yours, respectfully. And maybe that's the whole point of this conversation. When we stop treating opposite sex friendships like ticking time bombs, we can actually define them for what they are. They're not placeholders. They're not auditions. They're not your backup plans. They're connections. And the people who get that, who really value you without needing anything from you, those are the friends worth keeping. So, can men and women really just be friends? The answer isn't just a clear yes or no. It's never going to be. The answer is in how mature, intentional, and honest we are, the friend that's in the situation with us is, and so much more. Because friendship isn't about gender. It's about those boundaries and respect and clarity. And if you're someone who's felt the sting of being accused or misunderstood or doubted for the friendships you kept, you're not crazy. You're not too naive. You're just living in a culture that still doesn't always know how to define connection outside of romance. But here's the good news. You get to define it for yourself. You get to set the boundaries. You get to choose the friendships that make you better, not the ones that blur the lines. At the end of the day, friendship is not about having unfinished business. It's not about what if. It's not about performance or pressure. It's about being seen without being pursued and valued without being used. And if someone doesn't get that, well, that's their limitation, not yours. So I leave you with this. Keep your friendships, protect your relationship at all costs, and don't let anyone convince you that something real can't exist just because they've never experienced it. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I had recording it. I hope it allowed you to view this topic from a new perspective of some kind. If you got any kind of emotional reaction from it, I hope you like it, and I hope you share it with all of your friends or your people, or give us a shout out on social media, whatever you prefer. I love you guys so much. This is Chasing Stability, and I'll meet you in the in-between next Tuesday.